Microphone check 1 2 1 2. What's up? It's your boy DJ Mad Scientist, and yes, it is. Hold on, just adjusting the camera a little bit so y'all can see my hat. um, Happy New Year once again. Happy New Year once again, and I'm all like not clean shaven, primarily because I still got to get ready for tonight. Most of you guys know that I DJ Friday nights. That's right. I am a working DJ, but sometimes I get really super busy. And in the case of today, I didn't get a chance to shave because I had to go to the gym. Yes, I'm back in the gym, back at it. Yes, getting them guns ready, getting them guns ready. So I came home from the gym, hopped in the shower, and then I didn't get a chance to like lotion up either. I'm kind of ashy, but it's okay. Y'all know me. I'm real. I'm authentic. This is not all like, mass produced, all clean and shiny. I'm not glistening. So I'm just, working DJ. And the goal for 2026 is celebrity DJ, mad scientist, celebrity DJ 2026. That is the goal. That is the mission. And so what you guys are witnessing is me on my mission. Okay. What you're witnessing is me on my way. Um, I think it's going to be a really great year for me personally and for you, I hope. But today we're talking about me. I think it's going to be a great year, primarily because I will say, honestly, after a lot of years of trying to, you know, do this music thing, I finally know what I'm doing. Like, I feel like I'm in control of my art. What I mean specifically is like, if I'm trying to accomplish something, I feel like I know how to accomplish it. And it's been a long time since I got to that place, but I feel like I'm finally there. And I'm confident that anything I need to do, I'm not saying I know everything, but I know a lot. And even if I don't get to 100%, I feel like whatever goal I set, I can get to like 98%. Okay. Probably that 100% is going to come down to things that are outside of my control. At that point, I just have to put it in God's hands. And I've kind of decided that. It's been a long time since I've been in church, but I've decided, the things that I need now are outside of my control. And, and one of the biggest lessons I've learned, you know, it's not about money. It's really, really not about money. At this point in time, it's not about, if I put more money into it, then nah, it's not really about that. I've witnessed people spend a lot of money in studios and the song just don't go. And then we have, 310 Baby who can make a song on an app that's on his phone and it's a big hit. So money, we could just already scratch it off the board. Just scratch it off the board. It's not money. Um, so that's why I have to say that at this point in time, it's going to really come down to um, God. That's it. I mean, it just comes down to God. And so I have to have faith that He will get me where I want to be. I just have to keep going. Don't give up. Sometimes it's on this road, it can be discouraging. And I've really had to learn how to check my ego. I'm not saying I have the biggest ego, but I do. I mean, I think anytime you do something for a while, you become confident and it can be seen as you having an ego just because once you know that 2 + 2 = 4, then it's hard to be like listening to somebody rationalize. Maybe it's not really 4 and you just don't want to hear it. Like, 2 + 2 = 4. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to hear it. Let's just move on, right? To something else. Let's move on to algebra. but sometimes you got to stay, the people you deal with, they still on that level where they want to do basic math. And you can't just discard them because maybe these are the people that might be hiring you. These are the people you got to work with. These are the people that maybe not even like me as a DJ. I got to work with, the bartenders. I got to work with the bottle service girls. I got to work with the servers and the bus boys. And they know nothing about DJing. All they know is what they know, and they may need something. Classic example. I'm in the middle of a mix, and they're like, "Oh, we're bringing out bottles right now. Switch it to a birthday song," and maybe the birthday song that they want is not matching the vibe that you're at that moment. And that is not the time to be sitting there talking about, well, listen, what you don't understand is you just got to switch it over. And you got to make a decision like, do I keep that vibe going? Because out here in the West Coast, typically is birthday, B word. I try to cuss on YouTube, but you know the song. And you might be at the beginning where you're doing like a cool 2000s mix, and it's like you into some Chris Brown and they want to hear birthday, and it's like, ugh. So now it just switches up your whole game. And then you got to make a decision. Either you're going to be the guy that says, nah, it's going to be my way, or are you going to be the guy that just says, okay, let's roll with it. But then you got to learn how to like switch up and transition, and you just got to learn how to work the room. And that's something that I've had to learn how to do, but it made me a better DJ. In terms of music production, same thing. You could be kind of steadfast, determined to be one way, and that sounds cool, but then, the vibe or the platform or the people, the fans of that platform may decide, you know what? No, we want this. And you got to be like, okay. You got to be able to like be able to bend. And that takes a certain amount of maturity. And but at the same time, you got to keep your own identity. I understand that too. And that takes that they don't teach you that in music school. When you're making beats, maturity, um, having a sense of calm, knowing who you are. They don't teach you that when you're making beats. Okay. Humility, they don't teach you that when you're making these beats. And those are all the things I've had to learn, and it took time. Then perspective and understanding is another thing. There's no book on that. There's no manual. I'm pretty much the only one that talks about perspective. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. But the reason why I talk about perspective is because nobody really talks about perspective. Because most of the people that you're watching on YouTube for how-tos, they're not really doing it. They're just talking about how you could do it. But very few of them are actually doing it, right? And so what I try to give you is perspective because I'm actually doing it. I'm actually radio hosting. I'm actually DJing. I'm actually music producing. And right now I'm in the middle of producing 3 songs. I talked about these 3 songs and just getting set up for the composition of the 3 songs in the last 3 weeks or last 4 weeks. So if you want to hear me talk about that, go ahead and go back. You got to go 4 weeks. Everything is continuous. Like I say every week, this is like a vlog, right? Of my journey. So I talk about all this stuff because this is what I'm going through. So getting into the subject, before I do that, could you please like and subscribe? I would appreciate it. All right, I've said it. Let me do one more thing. I got to do this. If you guys are noticing, I am wearing my mad scientist dad hat. I've been talking about it for weeks. And so now you actually see me wearing it. It's a really, really great product. If you want to get any of the merch, whether it's the dad hat, the hoodies, the beanies. I may put the beanies on sale because it's starting to get a little warm, at least in California. Um, but I may put those on sale because I may put the hoodies on sale too, just because I want y'all to have it. But I know like you guys may not need it, especially out here in California. Then I got t-shirts and just different types of t-shirts, which I'm gonna put together. I'm thinking about putting together a new t-shirt. We'll see. Um, for 2026. So, all right, that's my sponsor. I actually have some more sponsors coming up. I'm gonna start talking about them. I just got to make sure I get the script and everything together. And so I have some more sponsors coming up for the show. And but support not only me, but support my sponsors, because that's generally how I make money. I ain't gonna say this is how the channel is built. No, this is how I make money is by, all the money I make from DJing, music production, and now I want to start generating money from what I'm doing here. So y'all, I mean, like the fact that y'all watch it. Please like, share, subscribe. Send it out to a lot of different people because the information I'm giving you guys is really, really great. Um, but go support the merch. Okay, go support the merch. All right, so we're talking about modern hip hop production. That's what we're talking about, and what I'm going to be doing over the next 4 weeks. One, two, one, two, three. 3 weeks. I'm sorry. Over the next 3 weeks, maybe four, because I want to get to the point where I may add something, but let's see. Let's see. Because I think it's relevant. What I'm thinking about is actually showing you guys how to compose, how to do composition. But unfortunately, um, the problem I'm having is that I use Cubase and I use StreamYard, and they're not compatible in terms of sound. So, unfortunately, would it be worth it to do composition if you can't even hear what I'm composing? I'll think about it. It can be done, but you kind of have to like understand music theory, and I'm not sure if that will fit into this platform. We'll see. If you guys comment and ask me to do it, I'll do it. That's what we'll say. I'll do it. Okay. So over the past 4 weeks, we talked about making useful music, music that fits a platform. You got to know what platform you want to engage in, and then you got to know what that platform requires. So for me, I'm a club DJ, a nightclub DJ, not a strip club DJ, not a lounge DJ. I'm a nightclub DJ. That means got four walls, big speakers, dance floor, bar, VIP bottle service, boom, 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 all night for 4 hours. Okay. That's what I do. And there is a culture in that, which is different than if you were to brunch, which is different than if you were to go to a lounge, which is different than if you were to go to a strip club, which is different than if you were to do house music. You got to understand your platform and what it is your platform requires from you before you start saying, I just want to do music. Okay. And so we talked about that for 4 weeks. We talked about the key elements. Once you understand your platform, which is tempo. Okay. So if I want to do house and I want to do like chill, deep house, just mellow, it's going to be around 120 beats per minute, hovering around there, 120, 25. If I want to do like dance, music, EDM dance, or house dance, or tech house, or any of that, you're going to be between 128 and 130. Okay. Every time. Okay. It's not, there's no such thing as I want to have chill, but I'm at like a really high BPM, or I want really dancing, but it's at 115. That's pop. Pop music is at 115. Okay. House, EDM, all that, electronic music, 130. Hip hop has the same rules. No one talks about it, but that's another discussion about hip hop. The fact that we don't talk about it, I think we should talk about it more. That's why I talk about it. R&B, the same thing. There are certain hard, fast rules that people know. These little secrets, air quotes secrets, that people know. I've learned to really like discover them through DJing. No one actually told me. I just discovered the trends when I started DJing. Like, oh, most boom bap is around 985 to 95. Most of it it comes in the center at 90 beats per minute. That's boom bap. Oh, most ratchet is between 95 and 105. Okay. Most of the time, the center is about 100. Okay. Oh, most R&B, is around 90 beats per minute. It can go up to 100 beats per minute, but most of it centers around, 88 to 90 beats per minute. Okay. Um, most club music is going to be at certain BPMs. So once you start seeing the trends and it keeps happening over and over again, you're like, it is what there's hard, fast rules in hip hop. And so, like I said, I talked about those hard, fast rules in the previous videos and the previous um, four videos. So go check those out, okay? Because it's very important. We also got key. Keys are very important, especially when you're doing club music, because at the end of the day, I'm gonna tell you, as a person who loves to go to clubs, we are bass heads. We love bass. We are addicted to bass. Whenever I go to a location and there's a bass trap somewhere, and bass trap is like somewhere where the bass accumulates, I'm there. Everybody else is. We're all sitting there. We're all fighting for that bass trap area. Okay, and but bass is so important in nightclubs. If you don't have bass, then essentially your song is dead on arrival. Okay, and those that bass comes from certain frequencies, and those frequencies coincide with a certain key. So there's a reason why a lot of songs are in key of D minor, because if I were to look up the frequency, which I'm not going to do, but it hits square. Okay. And people who are very successful producers, they know it. Okay. They don't play around with it. It used to be a time where you would base the key on the range of the singer. So certain singers feel more comfortable in certain keys, singing in certain keys. But now, with the invention of auto tune and everything else that we can do, the focus is on getting a key where the bass is going to be like big. Okay, especially if you're doing nightclub music or music for nightclub, or if you're doing music for festivals, you still want that bass. Festival people want bass. Arenas, stadiums, they still want that bass. And so you got to hit that sweet spot, and you got to know, like, okay, what exact key can I do this song in that will give me the most amount of bass. Okay, that's really what people are concerned about. And then the last element, I know I'm like, because I took a shower, so I'm itching, and I'm like ashy too, but I've already started. Can't see it until the lights turn on, so should just put some lotion on it regardless, huh? So sound selection is important. I can't stress that enough. You got to have the right sound selection. I talked about how, I typically do club music, ratchet version out here in the West Coast. And I said one of the sounds that you got to have is a piano. You got to have a song with a piano. I don't know who came up with it. I don't know who decided it, but at this point, it is what it is, and it just works. So one of the songs I made, one of the beats I made, has a piano sound in there. Of course, because gotta do it. It's just one of those things. I know that, so therefore I'm gonna make sure that it's in there. And that's why I said from the beginning, I feel like I will be successful. The rest of it has nothing to do with me, has all to do with God. Okay, like I can sit here and do the beats. This weekend, I'm going to record the vocals, and but then after that, I have to put it into the, the customers, all my people that follow me. I have to put it into their hands. I have to put it into the hands of the people that come to the club, come to brunch, and I have to put it into God's hands. And I have no control over that because I could be like, oh man, I did all the right things and come back to y'all and be like, you know what? People just didn't like it. I was wrong. Maybe I need to get that job, you know? That's a reality. And we take that risk all the time as artists. We take that risk like, okay, we're gonna know what we're doing, we're gonna do what we're supposed to do, and then we have to just leave it up to God and the people. And that's it. Unfortunately, that is it. And sometimes it works and sometimes it don't. I've DJ nights, I'll be honest, where I feel like I'm doing a great job and people just not feeling the vibe and I gotta switch it up. I'm not gonna tell you it don't happen. It happens to everybody. There are times where I feel like, man, I'm lit. I don't know what the hell I'm playing. I'm just playing basically off vibes, and people are just like they feeling it more. They feeling it even more. And it's like, and then you wake up the next day, you don't know what you did. You don't remember your mix. You're like, dang it. But I have a foundation though, so that when those nights happen, which don't happen a lot, but when they do happen where it's like I'm just so super lit, I can just, I can just still like operate because I have a base, okay? And I have a basic baseline as to how a club is supposed to sound, at night. All right. So that's the introduction. Now we're gonna get into something. I'm gonna try something, and this will be um I hope it works. But I have some backup just in case it don't work. But what I'm going to show you is I'm going to share my screen and show you my Cubase. Now, you're not going to hear it, but I don't have anything in it. So you're not going to hear it, but you'll be able to see it. Okay. And I hope my mic is still working. Yes, my mic is still working. Yes. Everything is green. I can see that it's on the screen. Okay. So I use Cubase. Now, you may ask, well, why do you use Cubase um, to write your music? I never heard of Cubase. What's up with FL Studio? What's up with Ableton? Cubase, I tell people all the time, Cubase is for people who go to music school. Like if you go to school for music, you're going to use this. Now, Ableton is very, very good, but Cubase kind of caters towards people who went to school and people who write film scores. Okay. FL Studios, when I have friends who are like producers, but they're DJs, I tell them go to FL Studio. And they're like, why? Because all the things that you can have all these different plugins, you can have all these different functions, but if it takes too long for you to understand how to get around, then it kind of like frustrates the creative process. For me, I've been using Cubase. I was taught on Cubase a long time ago, and then I've been using it, and I'm not going to change. Primarily because Cubase typically and I'm not trying to sell it, but Cubase typically is like the first one to do certain things, and but it's not as popular. But it's the first one to do certain things. Like right now, I have Cubase Pro 15, and I can do stem separation inside of this DAW. And I'm not sure if FL Studio or any other DAW can provide you with that. So there is nothing I can't do with just the basic free version in Cubase. Want to chop some vocals up? They have a vocal chopper in here already. It comes with it. Okay. Want to modulate some things? It comes with modulation. A big thing that everybody's talking about is AI creating this music. It doesn't have AI in here, but what it has is it has assistance. And I'm not gonna, this is not about Cubase, but it has functions in here. Like this is a chord, it's called a chord track. And I can basically, this chord track, I can put up a chord progression and have it play the chord progression without me even touching the keys, right? I can just, if I know which chords to put together. And that's where I say you need to like know music theory so you'll know which chord progress, how to arrange your chord progression. Okay. See, I could do this and maybe the first key is this and just add different chords, right? And then make them different chords and boom, they're all different chords. Okay. And that's my chord progression. So I can do that. But that's not why I brought you here. Okay. The reason why I brought you here is because we're talking about production. And production comes down to the mixing part, the mixing and the mastering. Okay. Let me do something really quick. So this is my template, and this is how I have it set up. And so over the next 4 weeks, I'm going to show you guys my template. Where is it? Where is it? Enable. Okay. And how I use it. Okay. So I have my MIDI tracks that already start. So I'm using, a combination of drum machine, like this has a drum machine that comes with it. I can use this drum machine here, right? Or I can get ready-made audio drums. Okay. I also have Kick 3, which allows me to design my own kick drums. I'm going to tell you this. I will pause and tell you this. If you really want to get your music sounding good and you make beats, you're going to have to learn how to make your own kick drums. I mean, I can't stress that enough, primarily because 2 reasons. Number one, when you go and you buy a kick, in order for it to sound like it's banging and loud, they've got to process that kick. And once they process that kick, you're kind of stuck with their processing. Now, if you add processing on top of that kick that's already been processing, it won't allow you to, number one, if you want to keep your kick at a certain frequency so that it doesn't clash with your 808. Okay. That's important. Or clash with your bass. They may put it in you typically want to keep your kicks at the 50 hertz. That's the G. Okay. Secondly, you don't know how they made that kick, if they did it correct, if they got all the frequencies that are important. You may say, well, as long as it sounds good, mad scientist, that's what matters. And it may sound good by itself, but when you're trying to combine that kick with other elements, then a lot of times the kick doesn't work. Okay. And then most importantly, what I found with a lot of kicks is that they're out of phase. Okay. And so it may sound good in your headphones, but when you start getting to larger speakers, that phase is important. And if your kick or if your 808 is out of phase, then pretty much you've canceled all the bass. So you may be thinking like, oh, I got the right frequency. It should have bass. And it may sound good in your headphones. It may sound good on a laptop because it's getting those upper frequencies fine. But when you start getting down to lower frequencies, the 40 hertz, in order to push those subs, that kick or that 808 is out of phase for a second. It could be a nanosecond. If it's a little bit out of phase, it's just not going to be as effective. And if your bass is kind of like menial, then you're not going to be able to like really get loud. And in order to get loud tracks, you got to have full bass. Okay. You got to have that bass be full. Okay. So I have my MIDI. I still use, I still got the spins, the Zay, the plug, the Jetson, the short Jetson. I still got those 808s, by the way. Sometimes I like to use them. But for the most part, I use my own 808 for my music. For other people music, I may use one of the other ones just because it adds a little different texture. And so I get that people still want to have all those 808s. I have the classic ones and I definitely use them all the time. But I know these that I have, these versions that I have, I know that they're in phase. I know everything about them. And I have tools in my arsenal to make sure that the 808 and the kick is always, always, always in phase. If you don't get anything else out of this, understand that phase on the bass is the deal breaker. Okay. Everything else is just musical stuff. Like this is like VST music, and this is like loops. Okay. So that's my MIDI on my template. Once I like get my song done and I arrange it out, then I'll make stems and I'll bring the stems back and put them into the audio. Okay. And I'll put them into the correct audio file. And then here's where we see the mixing. Okay. And so I want to make sure I'm not looking at my StreamYard screen. So I want to make sure if I have comments or not. Okay, so hold on. So this is the mix console, and this is where I want to really, really focus the rest of my time. Hold on, let me see how much time I do have. Okay, I have 30 minutes. Okay, cool. All right, so I'm going to go through the plugins that I have and explain to you what they are. I'm not going to show you how to use them. I'm just going to explain to you why I use it. Okay. Now, in the description, we're talking about various aspects of production. You know, you got clipping, you have compression, you have equalization, you have saturation. Okay. Those are the most important things that you have on every production when you're mixing. Okay. Now, this is the part where I'm making just the beat. Why is that important? Because I have another template for vocals. Now, if you notice on here, I don't have any compressors. If you notice, I will tell you, I don't have any compressors, okay, for my beat. Why? Because number one, compressors are used to control dynamics. Dynamic would be, or the dynamic range. Let's say if I have a kick drum here and it tops off at 6. And then the next time it hits, it comes down at 12. Next time it hits at 3 or something in between, 7. Next time it's 5. Okay, I don't want that. But I want my kick drum to consistently hit at 6. 6. Or this is actually -6 consistently every time. -6 every time, right? I'm not dealing with a drummer, an acoustic drummer. So I don't need to control the dynamics. It's controlled by the fact that it's electronic and it's going to hit at -6 every time. Every time, -6 every time. Now, secondly, I've gone through, and I'm not going to do it now, but I've gone through many, many experiments, okay, and looked at the difference between, using a compressor and just using a clipper. And using a clipper by far is louder than using a compressor. So I don't even mess with a compressor. Okay. Now, if you notice on here, the first thing I have is an SSL channel. Why? Two reasons. Number one, because I grew up in the era of the SSL board and I always wanted to have an SSL board. I can't afford an SSL board, but this is the next best thing. So part of it is fantasy. The second part of it is this adds a small bit of saturation. Okay. Now, if you know anything about saturation, saturation is the hot sauce for all the elements in your beat. It is the hot sauce. And if you eat any kind of food, you put hot sauce on what? You put it on everything. Okay. You put hot sauce on everything. And so that's what saturation is. It's the hot sauce. Prior to digital, there used to be a thing where you tried to get the, the every element of your beat or every element of your song to sound as clean as possible. And I was around during the analog era. And everybody was like, oh my God, like, how do we get the noise out? How do we get the hiss out? How do we make so that it can be clean as possible? Then when we got to digital, everybody celebrated. Yeah, it's gonna be clean. And the music sucked. We didn't like it clean. Our ears don't. And then we started learning that we listen to saturation every day, all the time. We listen to analog saturation all the time, every day. So our ears are just automatically used to analog saturation. We like it. It is the secret sauce. Okay. Now you know. So this adds a little bit of saturation. Okay. Now, saturation is not something that you just add on at the end and it's enough. No, it's not like salt and pepper. You got to add saturation at every stage. So you add a little bit. It doesn't add a lot of saturation. There's no saturated knob on here, but it's modeling the SSL board. And it says part of the SSL board, it adds saturation to the signal. Okay. Then I have an envelope shaper. Okay. That keeps everything tight. Okay. It also, whenever sometimes I'll use sample, like in this case, snaps, and it comes with reverb. I try to take the reverb out because I want to use my own clean reverb. And so I'll put a envelope shaper on there. But it keeps this, for me, and this is just my opinion, it keeps the beat tight. Okay. And that's what we like. We like tight. We like that snap. Okay. Because it's like, okay. Then the next thing I have on here is a clipper. Now, I will say this. I didn't know. I've always seen this before. This has been part of Cubase, a clip forever. It's called a soft clipper. Not this particular brand, but Cubase has had a soft clipper from years ago. But I didn't know how to use it. And then I thought it was part of mastering. So it was like, now, a couple things I want to show you. And I'm just looking at my time because you've probably seen this. Okay. Where, how can I? Okay. I'm going to have to just show you that next week. Okay. Wait a minute. Before we get into that though, let me show you something real quick. I want to give a shout out. I don't know, the gods, the production gods blessed me one day. That's why I say it. Sometimes you gotta give an honor to God. I was watching YouTube, and I'm always watching these how-to. And one day, I just knew, okay, I learned how to use a compressor. I know how to use all these plugins, but I'm not getting the loudness I want. Why is it not louder? Why is everything sounds bigger and louder than my music? And the production gods sent me to this channel. I'm gonna leave it up here for a little while. This person is not a how-to person. This person is literally a DJ like myself. And this is where I got the idea of my channel. This person's a DJ, and I think it's called Bath Matrix. This person is a DJ. And they were having the same frustration I had. And when they learned it, this person did a super deep dive. Every video is like over an hour. Some of them are 2 hours, some are 3. Just a super deep dive on the clip to zero production strategy. It's a deep dive. Like I think it took me like 2 weeks to go through this. just to go through it. And then you got to, it took me about a month to figure it out. It took me a while. I would say go to this one and deep dive. Shout out to Bath Matrix. I don't know who this person is. They haven't really did anything else. Like these are like 4 years ago. I think I was like going through it around COVID, around 2020. Well, it couldn't be 2020 because, but yeah, it was. I think it started 2020. Anyway, I this shout out to this person, and this person was the first person that I've seen talked about clipping and how to clip and why to clip. And I'm talking about this person goes deep dive. It's deep ocean at the bottom of the ocean kind of dive. You got to go through it in order to really understand. And this person goes, um, gives you the perspective and the technique. I just give you the perspective. This person gives you the perspective and the technique. But you see why I don't do it because, man, I'd be talking on here for 2-3 hours if I did that. Okay. So I just give you the perspective, but you got to go through it. Shout out to Bath Matrix. Um, definitely, definitely do yourself a favor. If you're serious about production, you're serious about making beats, you got to go through it because I would tell you, I used to look at a lot of the engineers. One of them would be Mixed by Ali, and he would give a hint, but he really wouldn't tell the see like what he's doing. The hint was one day he slipped up. I don't know if he slipped up or if he meant to say it, but he said, "Yeah, Dr. Dre showed him how to clip the board, the SSL board." And I was like, "Oh wait, they're clipping. That's why Dre is so big and loud because he's clipping." And but Mixed by Ali, shout out to him. He's a good brother. I mean, but he ain't gonna sit there and tell us how to clip the board, right? So I learned from Bath Matrix how to essentially clip the board on a digital level. Okay, let's get back to sharing. So that's what I'm clipping every individual channel. Now you may say, "Oh, I don't see you clipping the bass." Yes, I do. I just it's not in the. I would tell you this. This is what I do. Decap, right, and then I clip. It's just I forget to keep putting it and save it in the template. Okay, so on everything I clip, here's the music, clip, and limit. Okay, the drums I don't limit. Why? Because what the limiter does, it controls volume. Okay, I just I tested it. I'm not going to go into deep detail, but I tested it when I clip and then limit on and it didn't make it significantly louder. And so I was like, there's no need of like adding all these plugins to slow down your process. Okay. So if I don't really need the plugin, I'm not going to put it in just to have it on. Okay. Especially if it's not giving me significant much more louder. But I want everything to be clipping at -6. So I will record all my stems coming in at -6. Now I know that the SSL says, hey, it's best to come in at -18 dB. Whatever. I go up to -6. Okay. Because I'm not trying to look for aesthetics, I'm trying to look for loud. Okay. And the sound I was able to get, it's not a traditional hip hop, but for Mad Scientist is a pop. That's what I tell everyone. Mad Scientist is a pop, hip hop artist, but pop. I have other artists that I work with that are more hip hop. A lot of times I will do different things in order for it to sound more hip hop. Okay. But at the same time, keep my sound. So remember I talked about earlier, You understand the bass line, but then you know who you are at the same time. So I don't want to sound like DJ Premier. I still want to sound like mad scientist, producer. But at the same time, I recognize that, like for one example, I get my loudness, mad scientist, his loudness will be -8 LUFS. For hip hop, MC Johnny T, the loudness stops at like -9 because once as the louder you get, the more it's going to sound more pop. I will tell you that. The louder you get, it's going to sound more pop. Hip hop is just not a loud music. Hip hop is not a bass heavy music. We think of it as, you would think like, no, no, wait. What about the bass booty? That's not boom bap lyrical hip hop. If you listen to all the classic hip hop songs that we like, they're not bass heavy. They're kick heavy. Boom cat, boom cat, boom cat, kaboom cat, right? But they're not like boom, nah. So because we're focusing on the MC, not on how much bass the song has, right? All right. That's an example. You got to know your platform. That's something I had to learn. So when I did the Cold project with MC Johnny T, I it's loud at like -8, but his next project will be at -10 LUFS. Okay. We'll talk about what LUFS is. All right. So I put SSL channel on everything and I clip everything. Now, if you notice in here, mad scientist, I don't see any EQ. I don't see any compression because EQ and compression are sound design tools. That's what they were made for, to design a sound. Okay. I do that in the composition. So if you remember, I had if you remember, I had my window where I'm doing composition, right? All these MIDI files. This is where I do all of that stuff, all the EQing, all the compression if I need it, because sometimes the VSTs, they need compression. I need to make sure that the dynamic range stays within 1 to 3. If it's hip hop, I may go between about 6 dB range, but for pop, it's a 3 dB range. What do I mean by that? Meaning, hold on, let me make sure I'm sharing the right screen. Okay. Meaning dynamic range. I do have to teach you guys a little something in case you don't know. Dynamic range means, again, let's go here, -6, right? I don't want this musical instrument to go below -9. I want the highest to be -6, the lowest to be -9. I don't want to go from -6 down to -18. That dynamic range is too. Now with hip hop, I'll let it go from -6 dB to -12. But for pop, for the music that Mad Scientist does, you want to keep your dynamic range between about 3 dB. So between -6 and -9. When I'm doing my vocals, I try to keep my dynamic range, which we'll talk about next week, between -6 and -9. Okay. And there's certain tools I have to use in order to make that happen. All right. But that's done all that is done in the composition phase. Once I get to the mixing, it's already done. Okay. So that's why you don't see EQ. That's why even on here, I'm not going to use this EQ. Okay. This is the compressor part. The only part of EQ I do is I will just reinforce the fact that I want to cut. I'll use the low pass and the high pass. Okay. I'll use the low pass and the high pass only. But all these other ones I don't use, not because I don't know how, it's because I've already done it. I'm not going to do it again. Okay. And I'm not going to stack my whole channel with a bunch of plugins just so I could feel better, which is what I used to do, right? We all do that. Oh, I got this new plugin. It's gonna be amazing. You know, Waves, they got me. Okay. I got almost every plugin they've made. Okay. Now, when that comes over to the groups, look at this. I'm still clipping and limiting because with clipping, you can't clip at once. You clip a little bit at a time. Now, what am I clipping? And um, I don't have I need to have this. I meant to have it, but I'll have it next week. I'll show you actually what you're clipping, but just follow me. What kills loudness are peaks. And if you ever look at like if you ever look at, something like an audio, you'll see like a peak and then it'll slowly go down. It look like almost like a Dorito on the side, right? And it's got the peak. The more those peaks you have, it kills your loudness. So you got to clip off those. That's what you're clipping is those peaks. And I have to find something so I can actually show you. You're shaving off those peaks. If you shave it all off at one time, that's when you get the loud distortion. So you got to shave it a little bit at a time. So you're shaving a little bit of the peaks on the channel. Then you're shaving more peaks. Now, once it goes, like the kick drum right here, goes to the group, a peak is going to arrive again because you've added saturation. What clipping does, what this particular clipper does, it also adds saturation and it adds some oversampling aliases. So another peak, even though you clipped it, when it's done, it's going to peak again a little bit, right? So then once it comes over here to this group, you want to clip it again. Okay. And in the groups, I do use the limiters. Okay. Because I want to make sure that it for sure is going to hit -6. And that's what this is. It's for sure going to hit -6. I'm not really doing any reduction. If it goes more than -1, I know that there's a problem. But usually if I do it right, there's no more reduction more than -1. Okay. And then this adds a little distortion. Okay. It does. And you hear it. And so I try not to add too much. I try not to add too much signal reduction. But if you're doing it right, it should be like at 0.07, 0.09, just for those overshoots. That's what is killing those overshoots that are inherent in audio signal. They just pop out, and you're controlling it. So that's what this clipping is doing. You're clipping a little bit more, okay? And I like to have my snares. I have a snare group, so I put all my snares and my snaps and everything else into this snare, right? Group. And this right here is just an EQ, again, just to make sure it doesn't add any low end. I'm just carving out. And then I try to take off the high end because I don't want it to sound too crystal clear, too clean. I like a little bit of, and I know to take off those high end. What do I have in it? I think I have this at 8,000. But that's to my taste. That's not a technical thing. That's just to my taste. I cut everything at 8,000. Okay. Just because I don't want it to sound too clean. I just don't. I'm from hip hop. Hip hop is not clean like that. Okay. But that's just my taste. Okay. That's what makes me me. But I need to put this correct. I want to make sure that everything, and if you're like, well, how did you get 25? Because I tested it. Tested it, and I came down to 25%. This is a saturator. I'm adding a little bit more saturation. So I've added saturation from the SSL, and then I added saturation on the clip, on the first clipper, and now I'm adding more saturation again, just a little bit the whole way. Not a lot at the end, a little bit. Okay. What saturation does, it also acts as a compressor. Didn't know that, did you? Now you do. So I don't need a compressor because saturation is the compressor. Okay. This emulates tape compression, by the way. This standard clip, it emulates tape compression. So it's like I got tape compression all the way through. This emulates it's like electronic form of saturation. Hold on, I want to be correct. So let me the SSL plugin uses what type of saturation? Transistor distort saturation. That's what it does. Okay. So you're adding different kinds of saturation, and saturation essentially where you at? Is a form of compression. It's a more natural compression. It's a little bit more, and then you don't have to worry about setting the attack and release. Okay, it's what we like to hear. We hear compression all the time. Okay, whether you realize it or not, even our ears has a form of compression, so you don't blow out your ears. Okay, so and then again, I want to make sure that across the board, all of my groups they all hit at 6. Okay, now my music, just because. Oh, let me explain this one. Resonance. Resonance frequencies, as frequencies combine together, they start to, certain frequencies will add up. Okay, the same frequency will add up and it becomes like a resonant frequency. So there are some mixers like Tezio. He can hear resonant frequencies like a pro. He is a pro. He's Chris Brown's mixer. He hears all those resonant frequencies. I don't. I talked about in other. I talked about, and I'm going to go over an hour. Just FYI. I talked about ear training in previous videos. How in every aspect of music, you have to go through ear training. So if you are a composer, there's a certain amount of ear training that you have to do. I'm a DJ. There's ear training I have to do. Okay. When you're mixing, there is another form of ear training. I don't want to have my ears be trained for mixing. In my big, beautiful fantasy world, I'll have somebody else do I will have a recording engineer. For mad scientists, I will have a recording engineer, or even when I'm making the beats, I will always produce the beats. I will always rap myself, write myself. But as soon as I can afford to get a recording engineer, I will have a recording engineer. And as soon as I can afford to have a mix engineer, I will have a mix engineer. And then I will have a mastering engineer, because all 3 of those guys have 3 different ear training. My ear training is for DJing and composition. Their ear training is for recording, mixing, and mastering. All different. Now, I have this Rezo, because I want AI to go find those resonant frequencies for me. Okay, so that's what that is. And if you ask the question, why do I have I have a kick drum channel, a snare drum channel, because again, I'm adding saturation on here over time. So if I just, by time the drums are done being saturated, they're saturated on the individual channel. Then on the individual group channel, that's second phase of saturation. Then the drums total, then the drum and bass. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 levels of saturation, just a little bit over time. And at the same time, I'm keeping those peaks, because peaks kill And I want to give you like, there's two things I want to make sure I remember is to show you how a peaky signal looks like, and it looks like a Dorito with a extended in versus something that is clipped and it looks more like a box. You've seen it. If you're a DJ, you've seen it. You see it all the time. Okay. You're like, if you play old 70s music, you'll see that the wave file is skinny and has like peaks. But if you have music that's now, you see that it's fatter and there's not a lot of peaks. It's just straight. It looks like soft. And with EDM and pop music, it's just a straight sausage going straight across. Okay. Those peaks don't exist. Sounds horrible to me, but you don't want to have like a lot of peaks. It kills your loudness. And so you don't want to clip it all at one time because you're going to get nasty distortion. So you just want to clip a little bit and you just want to maintain those peaks. Make sure they, and so that's what I'm doing by having multiple groups. Okay. I have music by itself, again, clipping and then limiting. Then I have my effects, and then I have my effects and music together. Okay. And then I bring everything in. I call it a DJ because I have this little, Cubase has this little thing where I can do DJ tricks. So I call it DJ, but I bring it in here. Okay. And I used to, go ahead and put another clip and limiter right here, but I didn't. Okay. And as you see right here, I have the standard clip and limiter here. But for the most part, I don't use the limiter. I mean, the clipper anymore because I test it. You always got to test. In music, you always got to test. Okay. So I take this out. And here's a compressor finally. Well, actually, here is the SSL bus in which I'm adding saturation. I usually add, I know my setting is 4. I drive it up to 4, okay? Because I've tested it. That's how I know, okay? And this adds saturation over the entire mix now. Not just individual groups or individual tracks, but the entire mix. And then I'll add compression, bus compression to bring it all together. Always remember 200 because you don't want this to be triggered by the lower frequencies. So I always put this at 200. I tested it. That's my setting. Okay. And the threshold is always 10. And it barely just kisses. Not a lot of compression, just kisses. And of course, you want it to be the slowest attack and the fastest release. And you want it to be a 4-to-1 ratio analog. So this will add more saturation again. So I've added saturation, but this is a different type. This is a tube saturation. Okay. So it's a different kind of saturation. Tube saturation sounds a little smoother. Okay. But we have different types of saturation. I believe this is tube. I got to look it up, but I believe. If I'm wrong, just comment and let me know. Okay. This is transistor saturation, different. But you want, and the saturation, what it does, it adds different levels of odd and even harmonics. Okay. You can get into the minutia of it like I did, but really comes down to is you got to just listen to it. And I know it sounds good to me. And you are always judged whether you're doing beats or DJing. You're judged on your taste. If you got good taste, Dr. Dre just has good taste. That's it. What he thinks sounds good, a lot of people think sound good. Okay. And he has the technical knowledge to pull it off. So he knows what's in his head. He has a technical skill and knowledge and perspective to create what's in his head. And once he's created it and put it out there, most of us think it sounds good. Okay. That's really what it comes down to. So don't get caught up into, ooh, what's your settings? Okay. Ooh, what plugin does this person use, or what plugins does this person? Because when I DJ and I'm playing my music, Nobody ever asked me what plugins were you using. No one ever asked me that. They make a judgment on whether or not they like the song or not. If they like it, they don't care. If they don't like it, I can't say, but I use the NSL Buzz. Oh, now that I know you did that, yes, I like it. Nah, no, that never happens. Okay. I use a tape after the compressor. I use the Kramer tape. Okay. And I generally will use, I used to use the big and open, but then one day I accidentally used the clean and open and it sounded better than the big and open. And I was like, oh, okay. And did I or did I use the big and open? Yeah, I used the clean and open. I just have to remember to take the wow and flutter and the noise down. Okay. And then I just take down the recording level down to -9. Boom. Okay. And that was just an accident that I figured that out. Okay. But it just sounded better to me. Right. And then the last thing I use is ozone. I have ozone 11. I didn't upgrade to ozone 12 yet because I just don't need it. Maybe I'll get 13 if they have something in there that I need. But right now, I just don't need it. And it was like, for me to upgrade, I think it was like 400 bucks. I was like, eh. The new thing that they have on there that I may need is not worth 400 bucks to me. Okay. So I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a good thing. It's just I didn't want it. Okay. And here, what ozone does, let me make sure that you guys are seeing the plugin. Okay, you know you're not seeing the plugin. So let me I'm sitting here talking about the plugin. Where's the plugin? Hold on. Okay. No, it's not showing up on there. Oof. Okay, stop sharing. Share screen. Let me see. Share the entire screen. No, that's not. Stop sharing. All right, share. Hmm. All right. Well, can't show you the plugin, so there's no need of talking about it. I can't show you the plugin. Okay. But I use Ozone 11 plugin, and so I'm not going to be able to show you specifically what this plugin does, but this is the plugin that does all my mastering, and it's AI. Okay. And essentially it's doing a lot of EQing and some clipping. It does clipping also. Okay. And then it does compression of frequencies, dynamic compression of frequencies, but not doing compression like standard compression. And then it does limiting. And if I do everything the way I'm supposed to, I'll get like -7 LUFS, right? And you can see on here, okay, it'll give you the LUFS. I have a plugin too that has, but you can't see plugins. But it'll give you, my meter will tell me how many LUFS, okay? And I can get it pretty loud. I also can make sure the peak is where I want it to be. I got to figure out how to show you guys the plugins. So by next week, I'll be able to do that. But what I want to show you is, and the reason why I want to talk about this is because essentially now that I have written the beats and written the lyrics, I got to start actually producing these songs, and I'm showing you how I'm doing it. That's essentially what I'm doing. Okay. And so each of the beats that I have, they're already like stemmed out. I've already done everything, and I've done what I'm supposed to do. And I've let AI do what it's supposed to do. AI does the resonance and it does the mastering. Um, and then I take the beat, which I don't master the beat, by the way. But I take the beat and I put it into a different template, which deals with vocals, which we will go over next week. I'm still doing clipping, I'm still doing limiting, I'm still mapping it out the same type of way. I'm not saying it's the best way. Somebody may look at this and be like, ooh, okay. I'm just telling you what I do. Um, am I like the best? Um, am I the best mixer? I won't say that. Am I the best master? Definitely not. I let AI master it. But for my platform, it works. Yeah, I know my platform, and that's the main thing that I want to stress upon you is you got to know your platform. And for my platform, it works. For my platform, for what I'm doing, it's great. And I can go to the club, and I've already done this, where I've gone to the club and listened to the beats and with the big speakers and everything. Great, sounds great. Everything sounds great. Okay. Now, could Dr. Dre or Mixed by Ali come in or Jason Joshua come in and be like, oh, I would have did this, would have did that? Yeah, of course, because that's all they do. But I don't have money to pay them yet. So until I get money to pay them, I got to do what I need to do. And so because I'm celebrity DJ in 2026, and once I have the money to pay those guys, yeah, of course, I'm going to give it to them and tell them I'm going to have me a full team. Okay. I'm probably going to be more like in terms of production now. I'm saying this, but just remember, not in terms of personality or personal, in terms of production. I'm probably going to be more like Kanye West, okay, than Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre is pretty much a one-stop shop, except for composition. But when it comes down to production, he's pretty much one who knows, like in terms of hip hop, he knows how to track, he knows how to mix, he probably knows how to master. He probably just decides I don't want to master, but he probably can he probably could do track, mix, master all the way through, don't need nobody. Me, I can do composition that way, but when it comes down to production, I'm probably going to be more like a Kanye West, where I have other people come in and do certain things, and then boom, it's done. Um, but for now, until I get to that point, I got to do all this stuff myself. And I'm just sharing with you how I do it. If you like the clip to zero method, once again, I'm not going to deep dive it like that. You can go to Bath Matrix and you can go here and deep dive it. It's going to take you 2 weeks depends on your time. If you got a lot of time, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, then you got to like practice it, understand it. You can always hit me up and ask me, not for the deep dive, but for the what about this or what about that? Okay. But yeah, you need to like go here and just get this deep dive. And then come to me for like perspective and things of that nature. Like one of the perspectives I told you today is if you're doing hip hop, like boom bap, hip hop, lyrical, just go to -9 LUFS. Don't try to max it out because it's not going to sound right. If you're trying to do something more on the pop side, Kanye West, 310 Baby, all the mustard stuff, then you need to be at -8.5, -8. Okay, I'm gonna see how I sound at -8. I know I sound good at -8.5. I'm gonna see if I can get up to -8. Just because I want to. Okay, so I think that's it for today. I'll see you back next week. Again, please like, subscribe, comment. on the YouTube channel. And next week, I'll be talking about vocals. I'll go through the same process with vocals. And then I'm going to try to figure it out so I can go through ozone and show you guys ozone. Hopefully, I can. And then fourth week will be talking about composition. I just, having Cubase and StreamYard work together just doesn't work. And I never really worried about it because I was like, I'm not trying to do how to. But in this case, the thing that most people get confused with is the kick patterns. Okay. And like I said, most of the time, everything in hip hop and R&B is standardized. We don't call it that. We don't want to say it's that. I think a little bit of it is professionals don't want to tell too many people because in our genre, we don't like a lot of people. We like to be like the only one of maybe the most 10. We don't celebrate the fact that we have way more people that's in the genre. And, for me, I like to share because I feel like the more people, it creates a bigger pie and it generates more income for everyone. And the fact that we're not making a lot of money is not because there's too many people. It's just because too many people are uneducated. And the ones that could do the education don't want to educate people because they don't want a lot of people in here. I think that's a cultural thing. I think it's not good. I think it's unfortunate. And that's the only thing I say about that. That's my only commentary I have. But if I figure out how to do it, I'll show you guys. Pretty much you gotta know your kick patterns. And I want to show you guys that. All right, I think that's it. I got to get ready to go. I got to go shave. I got to get some lotion on. I got to get ready to bang out this club. I got 2 hours to do tonight. And then if you are in the LA area, come on out to Agave Ultra Lounge, downtown Long Beach. It is lit. We are lit every Friday. All right, that's it. I will see y'all. Peace out.